Hey guys, Rich from GunTortureTests.com. This is a suppressor. It's a small one, but it is a suppressor. And yes, for those of you who are curious, or maybe those of you who live in California or New York or some other communist state, they are legal in the majority of U.S. states for private citizens to own and use. We'll get into that in a few minutes. But over here is what I like to call Rich's bad drawing with suppressor. All suppressors basically is a muffler. It's a muffler for your gun. It consists of an expansion chamber, another smaller expansion chamber at the other end, and a series of baffles. And all it's designed to do is to contain the gases from a gunshot, slow them down and cool them off, thereby lowering the noise level of your gun. Some suppressors, 30 decibels, some 40. Some allegedly are even better than that. And also, you have to take into consideration whether you're shooting the gun wet or dry. And I'll get into that in the next video. I'll get into those specifics. But basically, if you look here, expansion chamber, baffles, expansion chamber, exit. This is the end that screws onto your muzzle. And what happens is when you shoot the gun, you're creating this big explosion, or this miniature explosion, and you got all these gases, these really hot gases, and they're moving really fast. And that's where a lot of your noise comes from, okay? So what this does is it contains them, and it gives them a place to cool down, and it slows them down without slowing the projectile down. And what that does is it helps to mask. Let me back up a second here. If you're military or law enforcement, it helps to, from a tactical standpoint, and I'm not using that term ironically, it helps to mask your muzzle signature and your muzzle flash. It does not silence the gun. Now, it has been said, and this is true, this question just came up actually, whether like a bolt action rifle is going to be quieter than a semi-auto rifle with a suppressor on it. And the answer to that is yes. And the reason for that is because a bolt-action rifle, the chamber is closed until you open it. Whereas with a semi-auto rifle or a semi-auto gun, it's going to cycle, so you're going to have the chamber that opens up. So that's going to create some noise as well. But it doesn't make them silent. This isn't the movies. This is real life. What it does, though, is it makes it so it doesn't damage your hearing. Okay? It makes it so that if you are in a combat type situation, while the people that you're shooting at will know that you're shooting at them, okay, they're going to know you're shooting a gun, it's going to be a lot harder for them to figure out where you are, okay? It's going to be a lot harder for them to using their ears to kind of triangulate in on you and where you're shooting from. Not impossible, but a lot harder. And if you're shooting from far enough away, it's pretty much impossible. But legality. They're legal. It's that simple. They are an NFA item. NFA is National Firearms Act, and basically what that is that in 1934, our government, in their infinite wisdom, decided that they wanted to make it harder for criminals to get their hands on things like suppressors, machine guns, short barrel rifles, short barrel shotguns. So they instituted a tax, and they instituted a $200 tax on these things. Now let's think about that for a second. In 1934, the big criminals were people like Dillinger and Bonnie and Clyde and Al Capone and people like that. And we're talking about people who really had no problem breaking into and stealing from National Guard armories, big banks in the middle of cities with all kinds of bystanders around, breaking out of prison in a very public way. But the government decided that they wanted to make it, they thought it would make it more difficult for these guys to get their hands on this stuff. And the fact is, it doesn't work, okay? Prohibition like that just doesn't work, okay? And our history, if history does nothing, it teaches us, that when you prohibit something like that, it's just going to make people want it more. And all the NFA does, in my opinion, is to make it more difficult for law-abiding citizens to get their hands on things like suppressors, which are a legitimate accessory for your gun, and other collectible stuff, short barrel rifles, short barrel shotguns, maybe, you know, full auto machine guns from you know, from some war or another, you know, collectors kind of stuff. It's not impossible, and it's not even particularly hard. It just takes a long time, and it costs more money, and that's the biggest thing. It's a tax, okay? And if there's one thing the government loves their taxes, guys. So, where are they legal? Well, according to this chart, unless you live in one of the following states, it is legal in some form or fashion for you as a civilian to own and use a suppressor. California, Minnesota, Iowa, Illinois, New York, Vermont, Massachusetts, Delaware, New Jersey, and Hawaii. A couple of those surprised me, but the big ones, California, Hawaii, New York, New Jersey, those don't surprise me at all. If you live in those states, I'm sorry. They're beautiful states. I've been to them, but your gun laws suck, okay? Suppressors are fun. They're fun to shoot with. They protect your hearing. In my opinion, they have a legitimate sporting purpose. And to that end, there are 4 or 5 states that have made it legal to hunt game animals like deer using a suppressor, which is good. And the reason I say that is because with the government and guns, okay, maybe you'll recall, you know, the big scare about Saiga shotguns, where, you know, everybody was afraid that Saigas were going to become illegal because they didn't have a legitimate sporting purpose, according to the feds. I'm going to talk over the train horn, okay? And hopefully it's not going to be horrible. You know what? No, I'm going to wait for the train horn. All right, sorry about that. See, I've got train tracks across the street from my store, and right behind my store there's an alley with a building. So what happens is when the train comes by and there's an intersection there, the conductor, who is, in my opinion, learning disabled or slow or whatever, he loves that train horn. And so what happens is he blows that horn, he just lays on it, and the sound goes over the top of my building and bounces off this brick wall behind and then comes right here into the back room. So I apologize for that. Like I was saying, if you remember not too long ago, the big hullabaloo about Saiga 12s and how the people were afraid, you know, the prices started going up on them, and people were afraid that they were going to be outlawed, and because they didn't demonstrate a legitimate sporting purpose. And that's the big thing with the government when it comes to guns is, you know, if it doesn't have a legitimate sporting purpose, you know, they don't want it here, okay? Well, suppressors, they have demonstrated a legitimate sporting purpose for them. And it's my sincere hope that at some point we can see suppressors taken off of the National Firearms Act. And it's kind of ironic that in England, a country where, you know, it's really, 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 really hard to get anything more powerful than a pellet gun, you can pretty much buy a suppressor over the counter. If you're lucky enough to have a license to buy and own a gun in England, you can pretty much buy a suppressor over the counter, and it's considered rude if you hunt without one. Suppressors, they're a lot of fun to shoot with. They're you know, obviously they're safe for your hearing, and you know, there's a lot of good things about them. In my next video, which I'm going to shoot here in the next 10 minutes or so, because, you know, YouTube's 15-minute time limit, I'm going to shoot using this suppressor, which is a Yankee Hill Wraith for 22s, and I'm going to shoot it wet, I'm going to shoot it dry, I'm going to shoot it with 3 different kinds of ammo each way, and I'm going to shoot it unsuppressed as well, so you can kind of get an idea of where the sound level is. And then I'm going to go into a little bit about maintenance and cleaning and so on and so forth. It's all, you know, with these, especially with 22s, because 22 is so dirty, it's really important to clean them. So stay tuned for that. That ought to be coming tomorrow. I'm going to film it now, but I'm not going to upload it until after this one's been up for a day or so. My Cafe Press store is up, and you'll see a link down there at the bottom in the description of the video. I can't hot link it on the video because YouTube is silly like that. Just kidding, YouTube, I love you. And you know, if you want a t-shirt or a hoodie or a hat, yeah, you can go there and get one. They're kind of on the pricey side, I won't lie. I don't have a lot of control over that. I just get a small commission off the sales. And remember that I'm going to use any of this money, like I use for the ads on the videos. It's going to go towards buying a better camera. But the good thing about the Cafe Press store is if the lady in your life, if she likes me, if she likes my beard, if she likes the videos, and she happens to be a thong-wearing lady, you can get a thong with my logo on it, and the lady in your life will love you forever. And so will I, quite frankly, because I could use the money. But stay tuned for the next in the series, and thanks for watching.